All set?
Yep, you got it.
Good evening and welcome to the Litchfield School Board meeting September 24th. I'd like to start with Pledge Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any revisions to the agenda?
No, I think we're good.
Summary of non-public, September 17, 2004, non-public sessions. There were no actions taken. That will bring us to presentations.
Have none this evening.
Yes, we do.
Oh, sorry, presentations, I thought you
Yep.
meant
Recognitions.
recognitions.
That comes later.
I felt bad for a minute.
Well, you didn't come over to my place for the celebration of Denise's,
I know.
There. Good evening, everyone. For anyone new or may not know who I am, I'm Phil Martin. I'm half of the music department here at Campbell High School. And I'm here tonight with two action items for you to consider. The first one is our Nashville trip. Give you a little bit of background. In the music department, over a 4-year cycle, a student would have 4 travel opportunities. None of the opportunities are required, but they're travel opportunities. 2 of them are out-of-state competitions, usually down in Massachusetts. We did one of those last year, and we'll do another one next year, 15-16. The second year of the cycle would be not a local trip, but a semi-major trip. Those would include trips we've done to Philadelphia. We've done trips to New York. We've done trips to Toronto. And then in the 4th year, if you went through the whole cycle, the 4th year would be a major trip. That would be something like Disney, Europe. We did Europe 1 year, Germany, Austria, and Italy. So this is that second year of the 4-year cycle. So we've chosen Nashville. 2 years ago, we went to New Orleans. That was a major trip. And Nashville was chosen just because of the wonderful music opportunities. We always try to tie in music, history, culture, as well as just a chance to, take in the general ambiance of the city or the area where we're going. So Nashville, what seemed like a logical choice, is just tons of music, much like New Orleans down there. We will pair up on this particular trip with a college, Belmont University. Very well-known college, actually very well-known for its bluegrass program, but it has a wonderful music performing program and a music education program. So one of the days or the morning we would spend at Belmont. We would clinic and work with 2 of the staff, and they've determined who the 2 staff members are, an instrumental person and a choral person. Some of the other things we would do in Nashville would be, well, we won't be able to take in the Grand Ole Opry because we won't be there the right nights. We got a cheaper rate. If you flew off season, so to speak, and weren't there on an Opry night. But we have other things planned. A Heritage Plantation, which is the home of Andrew Jackson. Trip to the Wild Horse, I think it's Wild Horse Cafe, which is one of the largest country.
Wild Horse Saloon.
Wild Horse Saloon, thank you. So the students can country line dance. We will take them to Country Hall of Fame. We're looking at a backstage, not a backstage tour, but a tour of a recording studio where they can talk to a recording engineer, see what it's like to get into the record business, the recording business. So our trip right now, the packet, I'm not sure it had specific dates, but the packet would be Sunday to Wednesday. We would leave here on a Sunday, flying out of Manchester, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, come back on a Wednesday late afternoon after a tour of the Nashville Zoo. It's pretty much what I like to always call a soup to nuts. So the final payment, whatever that's going to be, and we're actually nailing that down as of this week, would really cover everything. So once the students are paid, they could literally get on the plane, fly down, and not have to take any money with them unless they were buying gifts or presents, or most parents want to give their children a little extra money. But if they've paid for the trip, and once they're all paid up, they could literally go, come back, and not have to bring any extra money with them. So at this point, we're anticipating about a $1,200 cost. That would cover, like I said, everything. We do not come and ask for additional funding or seek extra funding from the board. The students raise all the money on their own, or their parents pay one way or the other. So that would be the first part of it, and I believe you got a packet with a rough itinerary, and as I say, the itinerary is fine-tuning every day. For example, at this point, we now know we'll be staying at Embassy Suites Hotel, which if you've ever stayed at Embassy Suites, they're wonderful hotels, and with the breakfasts are all included. And then we have other activities planned for them as well. Be glad to entertain any questions.
Phil, I don't know if the board members know that when someone signs up for band, the athletic equivalent is you're a member of a team and you play a position, and when you take the group, you can't leave players out. And it is a significant commitment. They get your schedule ahead of time. They commit to each and every one of those events. And we have people who are both musicians and athletes who, in order to make things, we have to move athletic competitions, times and starts, and make special travel arrangements so that these kids who are heavily involved in other things as well as band can keep that commitment. But it is a serious commitment, and the students handle those responsibilities so well. And to me, the band experience is such a vital part of so many kids' education. It's like an extended family for them. So I just want to let you know, I mean, you know me, over the summer I was down watching you and Carolyn late jam with the kids, and in theory you were teaching, but I think you were having more fun than they were, and they were having a blast. So just to let you know how much I appreciate and respect the music program here. And for those who aren't aware, it's a fabulous program. It's one that rivals any that I have ever seen. We have wonderful teachers, K through 12, and it is a fabulous program, but it is a serious commitment. But I've never seen kids have so much fun and learn so much while they're fulfilling that commitment.
Thank you. And we do. We work very hard to work with all the coaches and all the organizations that go on, and we try to get our schedule out, a good long time in advance. We look at everybody else's schedule and work around students the best we can. The major trips too, by the way, do not involve missing any school time. We always schedule those over vacation. I think the only one we missed a school day for was the Europe trip, because that was 8 days, 9 nights. So we did leave on a Friday or something going into April vacation. And we were actually on a trip one time, and school got canceled. And the kids wanted to know it because they were with us on a trip, if they were going to have to make up school, and I said yes.
Do you need a motion? Make a motion to approve the CHS music trip to Nashville.
Second.
Any other conversation? All those for?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Abstain. 3-0-0.
Thank you. So now I'll move on to the next part of our presentation. So we understand it's the policy, if a group introduces a new fundraiser, to bring that to the school board, kind of introduce you to it. We've had, I won't say a large number of fundraisers, but we're always trying to kind of look out of the box and see what we can bring into the district that's not only another pamphlet, which we're doing, of course, but something that if you purchase a product, you're getting a decent product. So we were actually approached by some of our friends, music teachers, schools around here, and said, you really have to look into this particular fundraiser, the mattress fundraiser. And Jill came to me and talked to me about it, and I had some doubts, I will admit, but after having met with the representative, having the representative meet with the parents now twice, they're coming in tomorrow to talk to the kids, I'm swinging over. So basically, we're asking for permission to do a mattress fundraiser. What does that mean? It means they're going to come in on a Sunday, October 5th, I think, is the proposed date. They're going to turn our cafeteria into a mattress showroom. Brand new mattresses, all sizes and shapes, queen, king, you name it, all different brands. I believe I went on their website. There were 8 different brands. And you would be able to come in, literally look at a mattress, pick out a mattress. You could purchase the mattress. And if you have a coupon, a voucher, and it has a student's name on it that you're supporting, you'll get the delivery and the setup for free. You won't have to pay that additional charge. If you want them to take out your old mattress, It's $25, and they'll take that out and get that taken care for you. The beauty of the fundraiser is, if for every mattress that's sold, the profits, different school groups do it different ways, and we've opted to get the most money to the students. Sometimes it's just a set fee for every mattress sold. It's $25 to the student, or for $50, and then a percentage would go to the music department, or a percentage would go to the, in our case, Friends of Music, or a group that's sponsored. We actually, Jill and I talked about it and decided that we would just as soon have all the profit go to the student. So if somebody comes in, they have student X on their coupon, and they buy 1 mattress, 2 mattresses, 4 mattresses, they buy a king, whatever the price of that mattress is, whatever the percentage cut is that would go to the student in the school, that's going to go entirely to the student. Now, if someone comes in off the street, highly unlikely, but it's possible, and just does not have a coupon and just says, I'm buying a mattress, then that percentage of the profit would go to the music department. But again, Jill and I will push that all toward kids going on the trip. We're basically, the whole point of this one is to raise money for the students for the trip in a major way quickly, rather than having a car wash, rather than having candy bars, all those kinds of things that will get you money. But boy, it's not a big bang for your buck. This is a pretty big bang. A student can earn $50, $75 on a smaller mattress. They can earn all the way up to, if somebody bought a $2,500 mattress, the student could make some serious money off that. So we're hoping you'll support that. We do, like I say, we do have a date proposed. The date is October 5th. There are area schools that do it. Wyndham does it. In fact, their band did it a couple weeks ago, or the music department. We know Hudson's, Alvern's football team does it. So we're trying to get a jump in. The company is very good. They're not going to come in and say, the Campbell High School music department does it, and now the LMS, that's GMS, Scarecrow. They won't inundate a community like that. Once a organization gets ownership of that fundraiser, that'll be the only type of fundraiser like that in that community. And a lot of fundraiser companies do that. We sell coffee cakes. I believe we're the only coffee cake distributor, if you will, in Litchfield. So different fundraisers have proprietary rights. So I can answer any questions to the best of my ability. Jill calls him Mattress Mike, but I don't think, his name is Mike, but I can't recall the salesman's last name.
When you say that profit goes to the student, what if the field trip's $1,200, what if he magically really makes $1,200? After that, does it just go to the Friends of Music? I mean, he's not making money off this, right?
Actually, in our particular case, we do keep accounts for every student. So if the student goes over the account allotment, we keep that in their account. Okay. If they graduate and they still have excess money, they can give that to a younger brother or sister, or they can give that to another student, a friend. They would just have to write us a note. We had a student, when we did the Europe trip, actually, we had a student who, by the time she was done her Europe trip and the trip the next year, she still had excess of $300 or $400. She said, music department, so we went out, and there's a portable PA sometimes you'll see pop up at events that actually was bought, and we've named it lovingly after her. But yeah, so we have students who will graduate and leave us, $50 usually. But this was quite a large sum. But we carry the accounts over year to year. Yes.
Okay.
They give you an idea what it generally creates for sales?
He said it depends on the school and it depends on how many show up. Now, the beauty of this particular fundraiser is you can do the whole thing online. You Facebook friend. In fact, some of you may have already been Facebook friended about the mattress sale. You can contact people. You can put the voucher online so people can download the voucher. He says he's had schools range from $5,000, $6,000 worth of mattress sales up to the record, I think, this year is, boy, I hope I'm not talking off the top of my head, 25, 30,000. And they do give an additional amount if you cross this threshold, and then this threshold, if you get to the $5,000 mark, the $10,000 mark, they'll kick in extra money. And then at the end of the year, not that we're going to hit it, there's an additional bonus if your school was the highest one that year. I think right now the closest, did you say Louisiana? I mean, it's nationwide, so, but he said small schools, he's had small schools of bands our size and music departments our size, say do really, really well.
So the mattress company has employees that are going to transport, set up, take down, put all their mattresses back into a truck and drive away.
The whole shoot and match.
Do they have, I'm assuming they have insurance?
Yes.
For their employees, and do we
Yeah.
have a certificate proving that they have?
I can ask when they come tomorrow. Yeah, they will, once you purchase the mattress on that day, I think he told me within 10 days, the truck is at your house, and I'm sure you can set all that up.
I'm actually just saying for the employees that are coming here, too.
Right.
I mean, that are moving around through our building, they're insured, so that in case they
I'll make
fall us
sure.
while they're
Yeah.
going through the process, then they're covered.
We don't want anybody falling, right, Frank?
I have a question. I guess, I don't know why, this probably isn't any different than any other fundraiser, but 'cause I'm sure all fundraising companies are for-profit companies, but there's no policy against, like, setting up a showroom in the cafeteria, is there? Okay. Just want to make sure there was nothing that, I don't want to violate a policy in case.
Well, which came first? Is it a fundraiser, or is it a company utilizing the school?
To sell
for
stuff,
profit?
yeah.
My concern is that, Phil, did you say October 4th?
5th.
Yeah.
5th, is that a Sunday?
It's a Sunday.
Yes, it's a Sunday.
Have you talked to Sue Air?
Mm-hmm.
And who's going to provide supervision to the building on that day?
I'm not sure. I know I school duted it, and it was all approved.
Because that would be a concern of mine, that the building is not open that day. So you would need to have somebody in the building responsible to open the building up, to make sure the protocol is followed, that the building is okay to be occupied that day,
Mm-hmm.
that we're going to provide supervision, folks where they can and cannot go in the building. So I do have some concerns about the building. And it's less than a 2-week period to organize this. Why so quickly, Phil? Why?
The dates get swallowed up pretty quick, but to answer some of the concerns, we're not, and we don't want the building wide open. All the traffic will go in and out through the CAF and through the CAF doors.
But who will be responsible for the building?
Well, and I can talk to Sue about that. If there's a fee for that, then, we can certainly take it out of the profits.
That's my point. If it's a custodian that needs to be on, that's short notice. I don't know if she's already, typically, there should be a custodian on duty when the building's open on a weekend,
Mhm.
in the unlikely event, but should something be needed to be covered in the building. So I don't know. Again, that's my concern, is the short turnaround that we're gonna be able to, if we need to provide coverage, or we can work something out. And we do need the insurance certificate from the
Right,
company.
I can work on that. I know in other events that we've hosted on weekends, that have been approved, Sue's usually, I don't want to speak on her behalf, but she's usually right on top of that and has crews scheduled way in advance if we've hosted an audition, if we've hosted music festivals, things like that, so. But I'll see her in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Do we want to wait at this point? I know time is limited as far as, it's, 2 weeks away, but we are meeting again next week, correct?
Well, they need to start promoting it, though, I guess.
What's that?
They need to start promoting it, I guess.
Yeah, we are, because if you wait another week, then you're down to
I would
very few
recommend
days.
you- I mean, we have a valid quorum here tonight.
So approve it based
So-
on
Yeah, I'll
concerning
make
its
a-
coverage.
I'll make a motion to approve the fundraiser, provided that coverage is made for
Right.
custodians and a
we
valid
get the
insurance
documentation,
certificate.
just like the application for anybody else renting a building.
Yeah.
We would need to know who's coming in. We'd want to know who employees who's coming into the building as well.
And also proof of insurance. Right.
And if, not that but I'll be here as well. I mean, that's one of the events that I'll be covering, so.
I'll second that motion with your amendment there.
Any other conversation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain. 3-0-0.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
On to
Curious to see how
Nashville.
well you do. I don't know.
Pardon?
Mattress sales,
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Will be. But if you're looking for one. Thank you.
I just lost my page, yeah. You're looking, I just lost my page.
Correspondence?
There we are next.
Thank you.
One item for correspondence, a Sonia Prince from Nashua saw the article in today's paper and sent a message to me through my online portal, and I think later to the board as well, same message, expressing concern about the ban, specifically the dress code, specifically as it relates to yoga pants. We could have a copy of that to attach.
I believe that young lady was from Nashua also, was she not?
Yeah, that's it. Is that the one that Janine forwarded? I think it's the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's from Nashua. She said she's not from this district, but wanted to voice her opinion. And I think there were two others I recall. One was from Lynn Ober, concerned that our phones were down. Which I believe there was a problem for a couple days, and I understand the phones are back up.
Yes. When the high school was built, we kind of ran out of money, and we purchased a used phone system that was installed. So while the school opened only 14 years ago, the phone system is 20 years old. And so when a component breaks, there's nowhere to go, so they have to scramble through other systems that have been taken out of other places. And we found some components so we came and installed them and reinstalled them and finally found the combination that got us back up and running. It affected only CHS and the SAU office. I think Mr. Markowitz, maybe 3 days altogether that the phones were down, and then everybody had to go back in and redo their voicemails and all of that stuff. I know that the vendor was here multiple times across multiple days. And of course, if you're taking a scabbed part out of a defunct system, you don't know how long it's been sitting, and until you put it into a new system, you don't know if it's still working or not. And so that was the issue that took that amount of time. The first part or two that were brought did not actually still function, even though they were taken from a system some years ago. So just in terms of Mr. Marquis's comment about we need a 3-year plan for building maintenance, we may want to be thinking about phones for CHS. When we talked about it, the warrant article last year, we talked about upgrading the other two schools as part of that warrant article to be equal to the high school. And I'm thinking at this point in time, that may be a low bar.
We need to raise the bar.
Concerning that one, I'll just say that, I guess I'm not surprised, but given that she works for a local newspaper and she also serves as a state rep and is used to communicating with people like us, I was disappointed in how belligerent her email was. So I'll just point that out.
And I have, I received an email from Mr. Jason Garrett on September 18th, reiterating comments that he made during the community forum section of the school board meeting on September 17th. He reiterated his very supportive comments toward Dr. Cochran, and urges that the board reconsider their decision with regard to renewal. And I returned his email, I thanked him for his comments, and I received a very gracious reply from him in return to that, to my email to him on the same day. So.
And I believe there's one other from State Representative Frank Byron, and it was a letter that was showing his support towards Dr. Cochran also. I believe that's it for correspondence. Anyone have any others? All right. Next, acceptance of the minutes from September 17th. You're busy, Michelle, huh? 11 pages.
Well, busy. I'm sorry they were a little late. I was having trouble posting.
I don't know if anyone's had an opportunity to look at them or not.
If you want to save them till next week, that's fine. I just,
Probably better use of time to do them next Wednesday than have to
Yeah.
worry about reading them
'Cause I
here.
know they went out late.
They did.
So we'll do that, we'll save those for next week. Brings the community forum.
Good evening, Chris Pascucci, 12th Colonial. I want to once again, and I might be coming back a little bit on a regular basis, just to again express support for Dr. Cochran. And I'll give some examples. I'll just give one today. It's, you know, if you go back 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, you look at some of the budgets, every year they were increasing hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, both the default and the proposed were sometimes $1 million. One year was almost $2 million more than the previous year. So I need you guys to consider that, because the past couple of years, few years, the budgets have stayed relatively stable. The voters made clear what they wanted, and things are improving. You know, that's, you know, we're not going to give all the credit to Dr. Cochran. It's a team effort, great teachers, great staff, and but Dr. Cochran's the head of this organization, and I need you guys to consider that and also reconsider your vote. You know, change is many times a good thing. I'm all for change, and change should happen when change is necessary. I don't see any reason for change right now. Things are going real well. Thank you.
Jason Garrett, 11 Perry Court. Hello? New person. For those that don't know, there's a new person sitting at the table. Real quick, capital, we're talking about the phone system. And sitting on the facilities committee, one of the things that I always hoped that that would lead to was a capital assessment of the entire district. Understanding what we have, what condition it's in, and planning into the future what the replacement requirements are going to be. Otherwise, a building of this age, 14, 15 years old, we're coming up on items that are just going to run to the end of its life, especially if there are other, I didn't even realize the phone system was a used one when it was put in. So there could be other things like that, but in my head anyway, you start looking at HVAC units and those kind of things, and when I take a look around the district, being that I'm in facilities, I see certain things, while they may be maintained, there's opportunity there, and you know, that leads to other things. But the point is we really should get to work on assessing where we are before things fail, because it's always more expensive. I have a few questions tonight that I was hoping to, I know Derek was the chair last year, so I'll ask you some questions real quick, if you can answer them. But I'd like to know if those folks that voted against, I think there's 2 here tonight, did you have any individual conversations outside here with Dennis at all about it?
With Dennis?
About the vote for or against? Not, and I don't want to talk about Dr. Cochran's,
Yeah.
you know, but I'm talking about board members.
Not that I recall.
You had no conversation with
No,
them whatsoever?
I don't think I'm trying to think back to August. I think we only had one meeting in August. I don't think he was even at it.
None? Okay. Why did you choose not to read into the minutes and make the record Dennis's email?
That was an oversight on my part, absolutely. My fault. He emailed us as a citizen to the board, and I went looking for the email, I couldn't find it. I believe in the email he said he was going to read it at the meeting. So given that he was going to read it, I didn't read it out loud, and then community input came around and he didn't read it. And honestly, I was probably sighing a breath of relief that he didn't get up there and really do that, and then forgot to forward it to Michelle. It wasn't intentional, it was an oversight. It was literally, when he sent the email, it was obviously a very, very stupid email to send. I couldn't believe he did it. I couldn't believe he was going to get up and speak to it in public. So I was literally waiting for him to do it, and I thought that was what was going to actually get it into the minutes, and then it never happened, and I honestly forgot about it.
Was there any conversations about that action, those actions that he took, and or that letter in non-public?
No.
Outside of the building?
I'm honestly not even sure what happened. I can't even recall what happened, like what came of it.
Was there any recommendations from the school board attorney regarding Dennis's behavior or letter?
I don't think it was ever brought up.
Sorry?
Was there any mention from the school board's attorney or any other attorney as to Mr. Miller's letter?
I don't think we ever brought it to it.
That was during times of negotiations, so believe I broached the situation with Gordon Graham during that time period, just to confirm, protocol, that sort of thing. And I know Mr. Barker and I had some conversations, as he'd indicated. We didn't, and the email said that Mr. Miller was going to read his questions into public comment. So Mr. Barker and I
We had a
had a
conversation
dialogue
about how to
about
handle
what
it
the
when it got
protocol
out.
would be, what the policies would have been that related to it in terms of board member conflict of interest, and we reviewed those policies together. And I also checked with Mr. Graham about that.
I forgot, we did, me and him he checked with the lawyer, we had a conversation about how to handle it when he got up.
Right.
And then when he didn't get up, I think we kind of both went, and then forgot about it.
Right, I understand you forgot about it, but considering the impact that now it's having,
Yeah.
a year and a half later, considering that it's a very clear ethical violation, in some private cases, maybe even criminal, did you not think it important enough to take it to the board meeting, considering that board members are not covered by 91A and those type of conversations have to happen in public, to where, there'd be some type of admonishment for blurring those lines that he admitted to last week?
I don't think we ever talked about it at the board level. The board knew about it, they were all CC'd, I think, except for Brian. And I think I don't think I noticed that you weren't CC'd. I think the whole board knew about it and it just never came up. But in hindsight, it was poorly handled.
Well, it looks honestly, it looks very horrible. I speak to a good number of people, and, was there some nefarious, and it's why I ask these questions, right? Because the public wants to ask these questions but doesn't know how to do it, and you're not going to just talk about it. In other words, so people can, 1 and 1 equals 2, and they kind of make these logical, sometimes illogical leaps to certain conclusions, right? And one of those being that, and easily made, is it doesn't get put into the minutes, it isn't discussed at this table, it gets buried, and then all of a sudden now, Mr. Miller's voting to not renew the superintendent. Ms. Lepore, with all due respect, has been here 5 months and doesn't know him as in that fashion. I'm sure she's got a good understanding of some things, but, to vote against myself, I would have abstained, not knowing enough about, having years of understanding who he is and having one-on-one type conversations with him. And so it's I've had conversations with you with the concern, and I never heard the definitive, I got this kind of problem. It was always kind of, so.
In regards to.
Well, I don't want to get too far down that
I
road.
obviously can't.
Right, and you couldn't.
I can't talk
right, you can't talk about that particularly, but in my mind anyway, if you would have been, there's cause, right? And we can't talk about it, but there is definite cause, rather than, kind of on the fence, is how it kind of comes out. And that's how people see it, because they can't get.
I will say something I think I can say in public, is that on that day, and I don't know if I can speak for Janine, as I mentioned, we hadn't met all August. When September 3rd came around, it was my understanding we were having a conversation about the subject. I don't think I was prepared to vote that day, which was probably part of my vote. I'm not going to vote on something. I'm not going to vote in the affirmative of something that I'm not ready to make a decision on.
Right.
And I'll say that was part of my reasoning for the vote, was I was not prepared to make that vote today. I didn't think we were going to make a vote that day.
Right.
And then from there, it was also handled badly by the board, I believe.
Did you use information that came to you from folks in the community and/or staff members to come to your conclusion?
Absolutely. I talked to everybody in the community.
And so you don't see that as a problem, in that if folks have a problem with the way Dr. Cochran handles things, our policies tell us to take it up the chain of command? Because you guys are a quasi-judicial board and have to make these kind of
When
decisions.
people come to us with stuff like that, I absolutely tell them to speak with first if it's a parent, you talk to
Right.
the teacher, then you talk to the principal, and then the principal has to talk to somebody. Absolutely.
So how then do you go, and again, this is about process. I've sat in that chair. How then do you give credence or weight to a complaint or an issue that a person brings up, right? Because I can tell you, there's a lot of things I've been frustrated about in the district that, quite honestly, I can't hold. In other words, it happened to me, therefore it's the worst thing in the world. Is it the worst thing in the world? Perhaps not.
And you have to obviously weigh things, because there's two sides to every story.
Yeah.
And again, we had met all of August. I was there for September 3rd, traveled the week after, traveled last week, which is why I wasn't here. I've since had conversations with Dr. Cochran and said, these are the things I've heard, and got other sides of the story as well. It wasn't something I just took in as
And
at
obviously-
face value. I heard
Right,
both sides.
and then I'm making the logical assumption then that the explanation didn't merit a vote to continue.
Say that again?
Well, in other words, you asked for an alternative point of view,
Yes.
and then you weighed the conversation that you had with Dr. Cochran with that against.
That conversation had after. I wasn't around that week.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is you had information from folks in the community.
Yeah.
Then you had conversations with Dr. Cochran to balance that conversation because of both sides of the coin. So I'm assuming then by your vote that.
No, the vote was in between those conversations, which is why I said I wasn't ready to make a decision, which is why I didn't.
So you should have abstained.
Well, no, because the motion was to enter negotiations, and I wasn't ready to make that vote yet.
But that's an abstention when you're not ready or
Oh,
don't
no,
have enough.
That's a no. If you're not ready to make a decision, you vote against something. I wasn't ready to commit the district to doing something that I
Well,
had reservations about.
Then why would the conversation not be, let's not vote, rather than vote to not?
The motion was never rescinded, so we had to make a vote. Once the motion's made.
Did you make that recommendation? In other words, in the discussion portion of that, right? So,
No, I didn't.
I make a motion to, it's seconded, discussion.
Yeah, it was a.
So at that point,
I-
your
I-
conversation would be, I just can't, we
That's part of
should.
the non-public, but
Well, that's not a non-public conversation. It's about how your processes are with regard to.
still, I'd be.
We don't have to discuss performance or anything. What I'm saying is, if you didn't have enough information, why would you not have said, in the discussion phase, before the vote, say, there's no way I got enough information here, we need to really wait, otherwise,
We didn't talk about that. We said we weren't comfortable going forward at this point. We wanted to have more conversations. And we voted the way we did.
but you understand the implication of voting no. It means you do not offer,
It was handled poorly afterwards.
so am I to assume then that you would have subsequently had more conversations about whether or not to renew Dr. Cochran?
I haven't been here since then.
But that's kind of my point is, so voting no to not extend Dr. Cochran is going to come out into the public,
It has to be released within 72 hours.
Right.
Yes,
which is going to cause the upheaval that it did within our district.
yes.
And so if I can't trust that at least one member of the board in this type of conversation, because it's huge, it's as big as it gets for the board,
Yes.
and the board is saying, I just don't have enough information, yet I'm going to vote no, and that's going to come out, right? That we're, even after the vote is done, right? And you see it's 3-2 against, right? You, Mr. Miller, or Ms. Lepore could have gone back right then and there and said, ooh, man, look what's going to happen now. I'm going to move to reopen that. And maybe we need to rediscuss it later. Because the three of you could have reopened that at that point, seeing that it failed. Because the only three of you can reopen this conversation. So my point is then, with the way you said it, as I don't feel comfortable voting, you're saying you're always going to vote no. Well, some major decisions in this district may not pass because you're not ready to vote, but you'll vote no on it because you're not ready. That should be an abstention. In other words, I don't have the required information to make an intelligent decision. I'm not going to impact it either way.
It's also easier to make those judgments in hindsight, too. I mean, it was a pretty heated evening, I would say.
I understand, but
And I don't want to get too into depth, and I understand the process is completely open, but I don't want to get too into depth in.
well, I'm not
Those
talking,
conversations,
but I'm
obviously.
not talking about Dr. Cocker. What I'm talking about,
Yeah.
Derek, is the method at which we proceed with regard to any conversation. If we can't proceed forward because you don't have enough information, which this board has done many times, you either table it or abstain from it. You don't not renew the superintendent because you don't have enough information. And I'm disappointed in that because then I have to now concern myself with what else? Now I've got to pay attention again to every single conversation that goes on in this district, because I feel I have to because my children are here. What other conversations are they voting against or voting for that they may not have all the information? See, if you don't have the information, you should not be having that conversation. You shouldn't be having a vote.
No, we had information.
So, thank you.
You know, just wanted to comment on Mr. Garrett's first topic, buildings and grounds. And I have to say, I would agree with Mr. Garrett. I think we're in a better place than we were 26 months ago, when we had no plan. We really hadn't done a lot of buildings and grounds work. And year by year, the amount of deferred maintenance was piling up. I think we've caught up a little bit on that, and I think one of the things that we have done well is establish the board established the Building and Planning Advisory Committee that you sit on, Kerry Douglas sits on, Kevin Lynch from the town. And I think that's kind of an interim step that has really helped us focus from the immediate need to a couple of years out. And I know that most of the committee would agree that it is an interim step, and the next step really is what Mr. Markowitz talked about last week, and that is the need to move to a 3 to 5 year plan, and then really push that out to a 15-year plan, so that we can know where we are in terms of what the requirements will be. When you put a roof on this building, it's going to be a warrant article, or a significant tax increase. So we need to have those plans in place. We need to cost out the anticipated life. I don't see that happening in the next year, but as Mr. Markowitz pointed out, I think we'll be making that next step in the 3 to 5 year plan. And as that is moving forward, then, you know, the plan that he's working on would be to extend that longer lifetime out. And I'm anticipating that Buildings and Grounds Committee would play a crucial role. We have some very knowledgeable people who give very very freely of their time, and that I'm very appreciative of the group. Thank you.
Just real quick, there's a variety. I used to use a specific brand name software, but it's relatively inexpensive, that allows you to input all of the data, and it shows you your funding formula going out as far as you would like. So you enter all of your facilities to whatever granular spot you want to start and end, and then it does all the calculations. And so, in my opinion, that's what the maintenance fund is for. And so when you can fund it and you have end-of-year funds, you fund it well in anticipation of future need. And so it's something that you can show the voter that's concrete. In other words, I have, 14 HVAC units. This is the lifespan on them, life expectancy on them. We're not going to take them all at once because we don't want to ever have to replace them all at once. Like, for instance, right here on this building, they're all of the same age. So you want to start spreading that out 2 a year, 3 a year, whatever that instance is going to be. But you have to have that plan and that understanding of what the funding is needing to look like, so that you can have that conversation with people in the public saying, look, this is the status of our buildings and our needs. This is the funding plan that we're going to ask for, to replace and or what you need. But it's kind of like it's just like saving for your retirement, right? A little bit every year, and these funds grow exponentially because they're invested, right? So you get more put in every year, you're saving every year, and it's a wonderful thing if I was able to show you the software. But the point is it's what everybody does in the world. So I'll volunteer again to help do that.
We could forward the information on the package to Mr. Markowitz and I.
I will.
That would be a good thing. And I know I've used this example before, but in a former district in Nashua, when we were looking at this, it was the first thing that got my attention and realized how important this management is. When the estimate on repaving the driveways and parking lots for Nashua North and South came in at $2 million.
Right. Yeah, you can't do that all in one shot. And then if you run a warrant article and it fails, you're not doing any. The small piece and small bite, but steady is, in my opinion, how you do it. Thank you.
Any other community input? Bring this to you, Frank.
Superintendent's comment?
I'm sorry. Thought you just had your comments.
He's trying to.
He's taking up all the time.
He's trying to improve on his already good record of fairly short meetings. I just wanted to address the CHS dress code situation, and regardless of where you fall in the spectrum of positions about the dress code, whether you hate it, you love it, you think it's necessary, but would like to see it tweaked, there's been some misinformation about it, and it's kind of like if you repeat something often enough, people assume it's true. I've heard people say on several times that it's new. It's not. They opened with a dress code that was different from the policy. They have enforced it year in, year out. And it has evolved over time, so this is not a new thing. They have over time involved students and staff, not community, I think, at this point, but students and staff on fairly regular basis with input into the policy. The policy reflects the view of, the character, courage, respect, and responsibility, the motto of the school, and is intended to do that. And I've also heard repeated many times that the rationale for the policy is so that female students will not be distracting to male students or teachers. And it seems to be articulated as though that somebody has said, somewhere in some official capacity, has said that's why we do it. To my knowledge, that's completely untrue. It has to do with maintaining an academic environment and an atmosphere, and as I say, in keeping with character, courage, respect, and responsibility. So I know that the board has tasked the school with coming back to them regarding this and how to move forward. But I just want to make sure that the public is clear that A, this is not new. B, students have been involved at multiple times on input into this. And 3, the rationale is about creating a good environment for teaching and learning, and to my knowledge, no one has ever indicated this has to do with not distracting males. So, as I say, regardless of where you stand on it, I just wanted to clarify those things in support of the administration. Thank you.
Is that it? School board comments? Now we'll move on to you, Frank.
Thank you, sir. Gave me a little more time to prep. I have provided you with, tonight, typically I would provide you with a month-end from the previous month-end financial report, but because it's the start of the fiscal year, I rolled it up as close as I possibly could to tonight's date, so to show you more pertinent detail, financial detail, as well as to show some of the encumbrances, because we don't load the encumbrances in specifically for the salary and benefits until we reconcile it, then we load it into the financial picture. So I did try to give you a more up-to-date, if you will, financial picture of the district. What I also provided is kind of a reformatted, I started this last year with the board, is in a kind of a one-page snapshot executive summary, if you will, of our major fund, which is the general fund. We have the other food service, trust, and student activity funds as well. which I gave you a snapshot of that at the top right. But I try to give you an overview, if you will, and I won't go into all the detail of it, but it gives you a quick snapshot of the revenue that we've taken in year-to-date, and our total expenditures, actual expenditures, money spent out by the district and the general fund, as well as encumbrances. And then the bottom part of the summary basically is a drill down of some of the high focus areas that we kind of maintain almost a daily review, if you will, of where we're at. As you've heard me say in the past, salaries and benefits contribute to approximately almost 75% of the district's general fund expenditure over the year. So that obviously is the first drill down that I wanted to provide you with some information on. As you can see, with salaries, total salaries and benefits, specifically in the benefit area, health has, after we've encumbered all the money for all the employees in the district, we have approximately $50,000 remaining in the health insurance fund. That is cutting it very close. As you know, it's early in the year. We still have a couple of new hires to go in the custodial area, full-time employees that are benefit eligible. And throughout the year, we'll have life experiences that will adjust individuals' election of their health insurance. So, excuse me, we'll be watching that closely. You can see the balances of salaries. We have some savings in the other salary area, but the total salary and benefits total, actual expenditures and encumbrance, we're down to approximately 3.2% of our budget appropriation for that entire area. And again, that represents 75% of our overall budget. Some of the other areas we look at are special services, special education, and we also look at building, keep an eye on buildings and grounds, oil in particular. We'll be watching very closely this year. Electric, the reason you see such a low balance there is because we encumber the full amount to PSNH of the appropriation. And then obviously transportation, another area that we keep a close eye on as well. So those are the kind of the key areas that I'll be reporting out to you during the school year. Also on my memorandum that I provided to you, I won't go through the executive summary, but you can see that, again, as I just reviewed here, with salaries and benefits, that's probably the area that we're keeping close attention to. Fiscal year 2014, as I previously reported to the board, we have an unassigned fund balance ending June 30th of $788,619. There are two factors when you look at determining the unassigned fund balance. First is revenue, how close we were to predicting what the district was going to receive in revenue. The LGC refund to the district, which was not anticipated, that number came in from LGC too late. We were actually over on the local revenue by $213,000. That was all contributed to the LGC refund that came into the district. The other $101,879 was Medicare revenue. That is the district's share of their reimbursement from Medicare for expenses for IEP special services being provided to students. On the underspend side, basically special services, which the district has an agreement with the budget committee and the folks of Litchfield that we will not reallocate those monies if there's an underspend in the special services area. And that figure came in, just with special services, close to $500,000 there. So there were three high focus areas that contributed the majority of the unassigned fund balance. I have given you some projections there as well on what the statement of revenue will look like for June, ending June 2014. And last but not least, I've provided you with, the board had asked for me to give a estimated local school tax rate based on the revenue projections that we have provided to the Department of Revenue Administration, which still pending certification. There was another key element to that tax calculation that needs to be determined, that is the statewide education tax. But my estimate right now is that the tax rate for the local school rate will go down approximately 16 cents per thousand. Don't hold me to it.
So we passed all that stuff and we're going down 16 cents. Not too shabby.
The problem is if I were, when we go through budget development, it's the tax impact of the general, let's say you put together with our general fund, we look at a budget, and then we look at warrant articles, and they say, okay, what's the tax impact of that? We do not take into consider, the assumptions are made that we're gonna fully spend down our appropriations, we will have zero unassigned fund balance. And we really don't know what the revenue is gonna be, so we just flatline, basically take all the revenue that we're getting this year, we'll say, okay, if all things are equal next year, this is the tax impact of the budget or of the warrant articles. We really don't take those other things into consideration.
Frank, if I can jump in right there, because, especially for people who are listening, because giving back $800,000 is a lot of money. At the same time, when you're looking at this year's budget and next year's budget, what we're gonna be working on shortly, that $800,000 most likely won't be, it'll be needed. Because you're not gonna receive another LGC.
We don't
refund.
actually, we're not writing a check back to the town.
No, I understand,
It's a
but I'm
credit.
saying, if they're looking at a budget of $20 million, and they're saying, okay, you're giving back almost $1 million,
Right.
well, all you need is 19. But that's not the case.
I wish
because-
it worked that way, because it would make my job a lot easier.
No, but what I'm saying is,
Right.
that $800,000, I mean, it's not normal that goes back to, that kind of money
Those
goes back.
Two events were non-recurring, in my mind, from a
Right.
financial standpoint. That LGC has done, providing us with a refund from overpaid premiums from
Yeah.
past years. Medicare, you just never know. The rules are changing in Medicare reimbursement each and every year. I know they were still changing if our Director of Special Services would tell you. You'd never know, because it's dependent upon what we're gonna be reimbursed by the federal government to the students that are ever changing, so it's very difficult. So those two variables right there, that was income of 300, another almost $500,000 right there that was unanticipated and non-recurring.
Quite honestly, the pattern in the last 4 or 5 years has been, you get an estimate of what you're going to get back in Medicaid, and then the actual has been significantly less than that. So if you follow the estimates,
Right.
I would say 4 of the last 5 years, you're going to run around looking for, at least in our district, $200,000.
But you have to plan for that. That's
yeah.
why I'm saying that it would make my
And
job.
so the 1 year out of 5 that they actually did fund it, relatively close to their estimate,
Right.
ended up with a one-time.
Well, it's, another example of that is catastrophic aid, which is reimbursement to the district by the state for monies over a threshold for special ed students. And for the past 4 years I've been doing this, the state, we will have a figure, we give the Department of Education all of our receipts, if you will, and say, here's what we're eligible for reimbursement. By example, it was almost, I think it was 400,000 change for this year for the school district. The state certifies our receipts, says, yes, you're right, those are qualified, but we're not gonna give it all back to you. We're only gonna give you 72% or 71.8%, they come up with some figure. So they're not fully allocating and committing to that reimbursement. So again, you never know, you gotta take, okay, we will build in the assumption that we will not receive 100% of what we should be receiving. It's a tough way to finance, tough way to project, so that's why you're constantly monitoring, if you will. We just got certification on Cat 8 2 weeks ago.
So of this 800,000, 500 of that is unanticipated revenue. The underspend's only 300,000?
Right.
Okay.
That's-
Of that 300,000, how much of it is special ed?
Well, actually, it was 500,000 total, and
Okay.
probably 3/4 of that was special.
Okay, so the underspend for regular education was
It was
150?
very, and if, again, if you think it was 100,000, that's a small percentage of a $20 million budget. So,
Just making sure the budget committee hears that.
yeah.
I'll let them know tomorrow.
There are just, if I may, Mr. Chair, just two other pieces I'll clean up real quick here. One of, as I mentioned in the past, our fiscal year 2014 audit was, for lack of a more professional term, very clean. We had two areas that we need to, two areas that were recommended to do with you folks. This has to do with, as you know, at the SAU, we are authorized by board policy to approve, and RSA also gives us that authority to approve budget transfers. Budget transfers are department heads, principals, administrators, directors. They may need to reallocate money from one line to another. Those are handled through the e-finance. It's all done electronically. And those transfers are noted on your monthly financial report. What the auditor recommended to us is that we create a separate report for you folks, because by the RSA, we must, even though we're authorized to approve the budget transfers, we must give you that, those transfer report to you each month. We kind of passively, the district passively has been doing that by being embedded in the financial report. Now we're gonna provide you with, going forward, a separate report, so that you can see all the transfers that have been made year to date, and from what account, what function code they came from, what account, and the amount of the transfer. So this will just be attached to your financial report, and when you accept the financial report, and I would, if I could, just recommend that the board make a motion to accept the financial report provided, which will have this budget transfer attached to it, so the auditors will see that you folks have seen it. If you have any questions about it, this coincides, this will, if you needed to look at where the impact of it in the financial statement, you can go to the particular financial statement, that particular line, you'll see the transfers.
Frank, can you tell us what the larger amounts are? I'm that concerned with the small ones, but I mean,
Yep.
the real big ones that stand out.
The
Yeah.
400 and some odd thousand, and that's what the Special Services Department will do. They budget for special tuition, and they budget a big number under district-wide, and then as they identify the students and how much those students are gonna cost for tuition, for special education, they will transfer the money from district-wide to that specific location or that specific school, so that we can see, actually, we'll allocate that money down to those school districts.
So all the
to
larger
their
amounts, the
locations.
400,000, 130,000,
That's special ed tuition.
and the 300,000, that's all the special ed being spent.
569, I'm assuming, is special ed.
No, I don't think that one's special ed. The 400 and some odd is special, that one's special ed.
Yeah, so I'm saying, if you look at that, that's the negative, then all the other 569s are probably where it's moved to.
It's where it moved to, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're taking it from grounds and moving.
No,
Okay.
that's a proactive, it allows us to better control the tuition expenditures, that way it's all controlled at district-wide and it gets allocated down to the different locations.
There are some cases where an IEP, you'll know that you're sending a student, the parents are considering one of two out-of-district placements, for example, and so you won't know until the IEP is actually written. So in some cases, you're predicting ahead.
You just transfer that
So it's
portion.
best to hold it in the district account and then
I wasn't sure.
transfer in the appropriate amount.
One more piece of information, Mr. Chair, if I may. Back in June 25th, I presented the board with a memorandum that asked for your permission to change the job description of the food service lead technicians to supervisory responsibility. And part of that recommendation was to increase the the steps for the lead food service technician that now had supervisory responsibility by 3%. The minutes reflected the board's favorable vote to change the job description, but we did not have the, what I consider the authority by the board vote to increase the steps for the lead food service techs by the 3% that was recommended by on the memorandum. The annual cost for that, we're projecting to be around $1,500. And again, it coincided with us giving supervisory responsibility to the food service techs. So I think just to clean up that, if the boards saw fit, if they could recommend, take the recommendation to increase the steps for the food service lead technicians based on the new job description by 3%.
I'll make a motion to,
I thought we had done that, no?
Well, I think you did, but when we read the minutes, and it's just, I would rather
It
have you.
wasn't a very clear motion.
Yeah, I'd rather have you just maybe reaffirm that back on June 24th, when you took the vote, it was to include the 3% step increase to the steps.
I'll make a motion to do
What he
that,
said.
yeah.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and
300.
that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want them to take a motion to accept the financial report and budget transfer?
Yes, and that was, yeah,
I'll make a motion to accept the financial report, including the budget transfers.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 300.
thank you.
Thank you. Right. Brings us to Holly and hiring summary.
We had a very busy summer filling positions for this school year. We had a total of 57 positions that we filled. Not all of the positions were brand-new employees to the district. We did have a lot of movement inside the district, which is always good to see. We did hire 24 certified and/or professional positions and 33 support staff positions. At this point in time, we currently have 3 open custodian positions and 1 paraprofessional position. And we are always looking for substitutes, so we've been posting and trying to get applicants for those positions. Other than that, we've been really off to a good school year. We had a lot of our hiring done right at the beginning. The positions that are open now have come up after the school year has started, so I think we're in a really good place.
The custodians that are open, Frank, are those full-time or part-time?
We have, we had a resignation, full-time custodian at GMS. He is relocating to Florida. We have one full-time at LMS, which is part of the reorganization, to basically taking the facilities director, and we made it a full-time evening custodian.
So, are we using outside help at this time as far as to compensate for that loss?
We
or-
are. We're actually using inside help. We have one individual that worked during the summer for us, is filling in some hours there as well, and then we're kind of shifting people around to. Again, we have probably the same issue that globally we have with substitute teachers and substitute food service workers and
Yeah.
substitute custodians. We would love to have a stash of all 3 in all 3 categories, but we're filling in as best we can. People are helping out, and I know Dave Ross, unfortunately, this virus going around has really hit the custodial staff there as well. They got wiped out at GMS, and I know we basically just had to close the school one night and not have anybody there, unfortunately, but I think they've gotten it back, and everybody's reasonably back in health.
Yeah, just a concern is, I mean, you said you made a lot of strides as far as improvement, especially at LMS, and
Right.
wouldn't want to see that loss with, the lack
Great,
of custodians
totally
right
agree,
now.
and I think, again, the staff is really working hard not to let that slippage take place. Yep, thanks.
Next is committee reports. I'm sorry, Holly, we all done? Thank you. Wellness Committee?
Good job.
Okay, so on September 18th, the Wellness Committee met, and those present were Michelle Flynn, Holly Messenger, Hilda Lawrence, Lisa Lasaki, Ruth Christino, and myself. There are 3 new members, including me and Holly. And we went over our objectives for the new year. We're going to review the wellness policy and see if there are any updates that need to be made. We discussed student activities that the Wellness Committee may be looking to promote or support. There may be a wellness dance at LMS. Going over perhaps some different ways to introduce different foods and nutritious foods to kids, maybe things that they haven't seen or tried before. Also, we discussed some activities for the staff with regard to, kind of exercise contests that we can have among the schools. There was a discussion about the district volleyball game, trying to figure out when that game can fit into everybody's schedule, and testing schedules and things like that. And also maybe some after-school wellness activities. I think there was, at some point, I think there might have been yoga at one point, Zumba, different exercise classes. We'd have to look into whether or not there'd be additional insurance or an insurance binder will be required for somebody coming in to teach something like Zumba or yoga. We also talked about we'd love to have somebody, a rep from the high school, join the Wellness Committee. I don't know whether Laurie has got time or someone on the staff there at Campbell High School who could join. Also, we discussed Tom Lecklider, who, Tom Lecklider is in our sights to join the Wellness Committee. We discussed him joining without, his ears must have been burning on September 18th. And then we're going to meet again on November 20th, and we'll take a look at the policy and see if there's anything that, comments and changes that the board might be seeing coming down. the pike with that. And that was pretty much it.
Any other committees? Perk?
Perk met on, it was last Wednesday for the thing, the same day as the meeting, so I missed it, but I believe all they were going over was, the current assessments we have and how they work and stuff like that. They decided to meet without me since I'm already pretty familiar with all the assessments and stuff, so they're using that as kind of a baseline, and then they're gonna assess the assessments as the year goes on.
All right. And that brings us to new business, draft team leader, grade level.
It's actually, we're going to use the same description for grade level team leader and unified arts team leader. There are 5 team leaders at GMS, 5 at LMS, and a unified arts team leader at the high school. One of the things that the admin team talked about this summer was the importance of including teacher leadership more in our planning and how we do things at the school level. And this is a 2-part plan. It's an increase in responsibilities of the job description that, and it's going to be supported by budget requests to increase the hours for this role. We'd like to see this move from the existing stipend up to a tier 3. Which will have some cost to it. We also want a budget. We're asking teachers to take on a significant leadership role. You're a team leader charged with those responsibilities with a grade 4 team, a grade 5 team, a 6 team, a unified arts team. It's time, it's expertise, it's just a chance to develop and grow. But we really haven't been supporting those responsibilities with appropriate PD. It's just been left to those people to try and get it. So what we want to do is budget a significant amount of money to put support around and grow more building level leadership. These people also sit on the school leadership teams. They are important folks. They're not a part of administration, but they're create much of the bridge between grade level teams, and they allow for not just the grade level conversations, but those leadership conversations about where are we as a school, where are we going forward. It gives a venue for teachers to identify PD needs, resource needs, and really it becomes a vehicle for school improvement. The job description was vetted through the LEA, Ms. McHugh for Mr. Cooper, who has, you were able to share it with the membership or with the leadership team and executive for feedback?
Yeah, we had looked at it as a LEA executive board, and we had shared our comments back to Dr. Cochran and the administrators.
It was, I mean, there were some very useful comments. There's some language in there that used the word ensure, right? And rightfully, the unit came back saying, given that these are all LEA members, one member should not be ensuring anything. That would be an administrative job. And so we're able to tweak some language and I think get potential issues down the road off by crafting a better job description. But the only way we're going to be able to have this job description filled and carried out is to increase the amount of funding that we have for it. And quite honestly, this is one of the most important things that we came to see within the budget process. It's not much money, but developing teacher leadership by giving them more time to work in that role and by giving them resources that they need. Some of them will be able to do internally, and others will either bring in PD, or they'll be able to, in some cases, identify things that are specific to them on top of the funds that they already have. So we think that this is a 2 to 3 year strategy that is key to getting us to where we want to be at the buildings. So.
And you need something from us right now with this?
You actually need to approve the job description so we can post it.
Make a motion to approve the team lead job description.
Second.
Any other conversation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. 3-0-0. Now we go back to Tech 1, Tech 2, job descriptions.
Tech 1 and Tech 2, cue Mr. Cooper for round 2. Remember we voted on Tech 1 and Tech 2 last time? There were fairly significant changes in the job description. The board approved those job descriptions, but the LEA did not. So per that section, Appendix A3 in the contract, that meant that those changes were null and void. They're important positions. They're also positions that are going to become increasingly important. We're going to come back looking for more time allocation on this. This is the other stipend area that we really feel we need to beef up on. And so the compromise was to take the old job description for webmaster and tech support and use the new name. And we've worked through the glitches. This is, I think, the second version of this. Again, we fed it through not the LEA executive this time, but the 3 members that sat on the committee, the stipend committee that's been in together for a few years, and got their feedback on it, and we tweaked some things. As it turns out, we've had several different versions of what's now the Tech 2 job description. For those of you who are in management, you know that you typically have a job description for, so if you have 4 people doing the same job, it's the same job description. And I think we have as many tech support job descriptions as we've had people, yeah, 6 fingers are holding up. I mean, they just made a different job description, so there was no single job description that we were working from. We found that out over the last month. And so what we crafted was a generic one that listed only the things that teachers had been doing in those job responsibilities across the 3 buildings. And with the notion that, given the hours, no one could do everything. So basically, we'll highlight or bold those things that will be the focus for each of those jobs. So this was sent to the committee members, and Mr. Cooper, we talked about it, and I think, as the board pointed out, and I think the LEA members pointed out, the old job description was ambitious, but, you know, given the vision that we have for where we like to be in technology in 2 to 3 to 5 years, without these positions, we just won't get there. And quite honestly, we fill these positions primarily with teachers. They go typically well above and beyond, and it's money very well spent. I mean, if we were going to try to fill this function in any other way but this, we'd be lucky to get it done that well for that amount of money, quite honestly. And I think that's recognized in all parts of the district, so.
I have a question.
Oh.
we're looking at Tech 1 first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is the minimum qualifications, why do you have to be an existing teacher at LMS?
Because we went with the existing language that was there.
I mean, it's really just a web content manager. I don't know that you have to be a teacher to
That's it.
do that.
Because the agreement is with the LEA, the default is a qualified teacher. And then,
Because
if
like
it's not
coaches and
filled by a
stuff aren't
teacher, it can be,
teachers,
and it can be split in some cases. So CHS last year, there was a certified teacher and LEA member who did half, and the other half was another staff member, non-certified staff member. But given that the contract is with the LEA and the stipend agreement is with the LEA, there is a default that says this is,
It shouldn't say Litchfield Middle School.
yes, it shouldn't say the middle school, it should say,
Just existing teacher.
it should say existing teacher. Thank you.
And why do they need to carry 251 pounds?
I'm sorry?
Why do they have to carry 251 pounds?
251?
Was it saying that?
Supposed to be 25.
Tech 1 or Tech
Should be,
2?
that's 25.
Oh, up to
That should
25.
be an L.
Oh, it's an L. Okay,
There we go.
that makes sense.
Okay, 25 LD.
It's 251.
I was gonna say, the 251 couldn't be me, because I've lost some weight.
Computer lab.
It's a big computer though.
Those servers can be heavy.
So speaking of
So,
tech.
and please recognize that this is a one-year-only position. If that language, there are a couple of iterations of this, so I believe it does say 14-15 school year
Yes.
only. So this will put us in place for a single year. assuming we're moving forward with the new student information system, the responsibilities will change.
Change next year.
And so, in April, May, we'll be actually crafting the job descriptions in.
Well, I don't know if this is an error here. In Tech 1, you have the year 2013-14.
Yeah, I don't know why, well, here's the thing. The contracts that are drawn up with the people has served as the job descriptions, which is why for every person that's in the job, we have a job description, and so we're working from hybrid documents. And we've actually not had true job descriptions per se. And in our meeting this afternoon, Mr. Cooper and I were agreeing that we needed somewhere to have a formal job description, board approved, rather than working from somebody's contract with a name on it and saying, here's the job description of tech support. And we had 4 tech support people last year. We had 4 different job descriptions. And that's not good for anybody, either the SAU office or the administration of the schools or the person filling the position.
I'm curious as to why the Tech 1 and Tech 2 terms of employment included the same amount, $2,090.90. The Tech 1 position, when it goes over position duties, responsibilities, and minimum expectations.
Oh, don't tell me I put the wrong one.
No, I see 1,672 for Tech
Oh, I
1.
put the right one out there.
Okay, so I have 2,090, because I was gonna say, they look like they're different. Tech 2
They used to be the
definitely
same, I
looks like
remember that
it's-
was
Right.
Yeah.
one of the issues we had with it.
The Tech 1, is a Tier 2, which should be that
Okay.
figure. The Tech 2 is a Tier 3, which should be the 2,099.
All right. So now, can we remove the existing teacher at LMS, or is that part of the negotiations with LEA?
No,
That was
that's the
all.
oversight that
Okay.
we missed.
We'll fix it.
And I have to say, given the amount of things that we've been juggling lately, I was a person doing the editing, so the oversight was mine, it was not Barbara's or Michelle's.
All right. In that case,
Threw himself under the bus.
I'll approve this job
It was
description
a small bus,
pending
though, so that was
the,
okay.
I'll make a motion to approve this pending the removal of the existing teacher at Litchfield.
Are we doing one at a time, or?
Yes, that would be good.
I haven't opened the other one, so yeah.
Well, what are we
You want to
working
do
on?
both together?
Let me look at the other one then.
You said Tech 2 is different. I had the same thing, $2,090.
Yeah, for Tech 2, Tech
$2,099 for
1's
the Tech 2.
1,000 something.
Yeah. 1762 or 1672,
Something like
one
that. I
or the
just
other.
closed it. Yeah, the other one's fine.
So it just needs to be
So
changed.
I'll make a motion to approve Tech 1 with the changes and Tech
Tech
2
2.
as is.
I believe it's Tech 2.
Second.
Yes, Tech 2, Tier 3, 2099.
And Tech 1.
And the other one is Tech 1, Tier 2, 1672 and change.
I'm sorry, so we have a motion for Tech 1?
But I meant it to be both.
Are we doing both?
If you combine both
Yes.
with the changes.
Was there a
I
second?
Yep.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained. 300.
Thank you.
Policy amendments, JECB, admission and tuition, and non-residential students.
Is this just updating the change of it the board made a long time ago?
The board, years past, the board had a tuition policy
Yep.
that said, when the board approved the tuition every year, it would be, they would also approve for employees of the district to allow their kids to
Some
tuition in for half.
Yeah.
The board did away with that 3 years ago, and
Yes.
they never
Update the policy.
renewed it, so we never updated the policy. So basically, we're updating the policy.
And removing those lines.
And removing those lines, and also adding that the board has final approval over tuition pupils to try to be in compliance with the other policy that we have now. It was a little confusing.
Just for the record, I'm gonna vote against it, just because 3 years ago I voted against it, because I think we should offer that to our staff, so, just so you know.
Ideally, you would like to think that we're running schools where teachers here would
Want their kids to
want
come.
their kids to go.
Yep, absolutely. You might not have a quorum tonight.
So we're looking for a motion to approve this? I'll make a motion to approve the changes to JECB.
If I change it back, is there anything else that needs to be changed?
If you change it back,
Yeah,
if you undo those lines,
yeah.
no, there's just a couple of minor changes in there that would constitute an amendment.
I'll make a motion to unredact that change.
I'm gonna catch up with these motions.
I think we already had a motion.
Yeah, I made a
on the
motion
table.
to
Okay.
accept.
Okay. So,
Brian made a
Was there,
motion.
was there ever a second?
So, you-
no.
Okay.
was there, well, even if there was, you could make a motion to amend.
There was no second.
There was no second.
Yeah.
Second.
There's no second.
Just to editorialize,
Was still motions on the table with no second?
that,
Has it died yet?
that bullet was struck in the heat of negotiations 2 years ago. If you recall.
I think your motion died, for lack of a second.
Seems that way.
So now I'll make a motion to undo the redaction.
I'll second that.
Any other conversation? So, if I can just ask for clarification, you said in the heat of the moment that that was added, just so I understand.
I think we always offered the employees the ability to send their students here for 50% tuition. So instead of paying $12,000 a year, they could come here and pay $6,000 a year. I don't think anyone ever took us up on it.
2 people.
2 people? Okay, 2 people. So the board, I forget that, it might have been that, might have been the reason, but they did vote to do away with it.
I think it is a nice clause to have. I think it, one child seldom costs us anything.
Yeah. And it's with approval, so I mean, if all of a sudden we have an influx of 30 kids, we could,
I mean, if it was a crucial
Yeah.
situation that adding one child at grade 1 would mean we're gonna have to hire a teacher, you could make a decision against that.
Yeah.
But I think you really want to encourage this. I think it's appropriate that it's here. I mean, it literally costs us nothing, and it encourages people to, you know, think of the school as a place that they would want their kids to go, and I think, you know, that.
So Derek, are you looking to take those lines out, or are you also looking to change the Litchfield School Board shall approve?
I'm leaving that change there.
So we still have final say.
We still have final approval,
Mhm.
yeah. Yep.
All right.
So the motion is to make that one amendment?
Yes, it's to unredact.
To unredact that one piece and leave in
Do we
the
have a
other.
seconder on the amendment?
I second that.
Janine.
And then we're leaving the other in.
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 3-0-0.
So do we need to approve the final thing
Now
now?
you can approve the
I'll make a
amended
motion to
policy.
approve.
The revised policy.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised policy.
Second.
Conversation? All those for?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 3-0-0. That brings us to policy first reading, JCA, change of school or assignments, R1.
So this is, we started the draft last week, right?
I'm sorry?
We saw a draft of this already, right? Or is this really the first reading?
No, we've seen several. We were trying to get it right. We were trying to get it so that, you know, everything would be in sync, that this would be more in sync with JECB.
Yeah.
And I think now that we have the changes in JECB, I think this is, I hope, more aligns with it.
So you added the italics there, right, which shall be approved by the school board?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to, actually, do we need a motion for first reading?
Yes, for a first reading.
Okay.
Andrew, yes.
Make a motion to approve first reading of policy JCA.
Second.
Conversation? All those for?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained, 300.
This will go to a second reading. Still have time to change it.
Make a motion to approve policy IJ.
One comment from Dr. Heon. Bottom, basic instructional course material in the fundamental skill areas of language arts, math, science, and social studies shall be reviewed at intervals not to exceed 5 years. Completely unrealistic. We're trying to write our first unit-based curriculum now. We have a 6-year cycle, and we're struggling to fund that. So in cases like this where we have a goal, but we not sure we have the resources, we typically stick in the word strive for. So I would recommend that the board make that change, or each and every year, unless something changes significantly, we're going to be violating our policy. And I know this is something you brought up. I mean, in some areas, we're going to need to renew curriculum in a 2-3 year cycle. But quite honestly, right now, with the 6-year cycle,
Do you have suggested language?
so I guess my recommendation would be basic course material.
Or should the district should strive for?
Yes, I think
Okay.
that's exactly the language we want. The district will strive to review basic instructional course materials, and yada, 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 at intervals not exceeding 5 years. I think that's exactly the wording we want.
I'll amend the motion to include the new language.
Second.
Any other conversation? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained, 300.
3 policies now, several to go.
Get a lot down with Dennis and John are here.
We still have meaty ones we have to get into.
You were more on the docket to begin with, weren't they, earlier today?
Yeah, they were. But we would like the full board to be here when we go over this.
All right, any questions on the manifest? No. Very good. Now it brings us to public input.
Good evening, just 2 quick comments. I can't recall amended policy. Does that come back for first and second?
No, if it's it depends on the amendment. If it's not a huge amendment, it just gets amended. If it is almost a rewrite, then it would come back and go through the motion.
So the one we just did with second amendment, that was just basically a small edit.
The one we
The
did,
one, the
amendment?
second reading one, that Dr. Cochran just,
Oh, the second.
To strive
reading.
for?
yeah,
That was the second
that's
reading.
just a small edit. Is that not just a quick amendment?
Well, it's a second reading.
No, I understand that. What I'm asking is, it's just an interesting conversation in my head saying, geez, we can amend a lot of policies and not, that could really have, one word change, but when it goes from shall to strive, in my opinion, is a huge conversation. And so that's just, that could be an amendment.
My understanding procedurally is that you could make unlimited changes, even in the second reading, that would, and that would be the final step.
Understood. And I'm talking about the amended ones where they don't have multiple readings. So as an example, the one that was amended this evening, right, may have significant pushback at a different meeting because it's not coming back.
No, but this is a second reading.
No,
so
no,
this
I
is-
understand that, and that's what I'm saying is
I think he's talking about
the amended one,
right?
the first one.
The first
Right,
one.
right. Now, that's what I'm trying to say is,
ECB, the first one.
correct.
Okay.
That one's
Because
coming back.
the amended one?
Yeah, that was only first reading.
No, it wasn't amended.
No,
It says
that was
amended.
just an amendment.
It's not coming back.
Well, we had
Oh.
redacted something, but he actually
Put it back.
put it back to the original policy with a small amendment that was in it.
Understood. What I'm saying is that redaction is a fundamental, it's a huge thing. It isn't a minor thing. That is a huge thing which has financial impact to this district. Especially, well, as an example, and granted, the board has final say, but my point is this, is that fundamentally changes the thought process of that policy. And in my mind, it's not changing a word, a preposition somewhere or an error in formatting or whatever else. It's changing a fundamental piece of that policy and the reason for first and second readings is so that public comment can happen and, it's vetted and reviewed and there's a process. And in my opinion, that's a very significant piece. Personally, I may not have a problem with it personally, but I have a problem with the process because it's not just a clerical issue. It's a very fundamental one where I know board members will have problems, especially, I believe there was 2 other board members that had very significant problems with it. As Dr. Cochran said, it was a very lively conversation. And so for 3 members to fundamentally change a policy without first and second reading, to me is just tough, that's all. I mean, so be it, just comments from the and then secondly, I want to say very well done by Frank with this report. I've asked for this for over 5 years and was always told it is unavailable and not obtainable. The software, the system cannot do this, which of course is just utter nonsense because computers do wonderful things. So, Frank, this is fantastic because this will answer so many questions to the budget committee and people like me in town that can't see where things go, and trying to dig it out through the 50-page report and follow it is just incredibly difficult. This makes a clear snapshot. It tells everybody where it goes. That is consumer-friendly things that we cannot quantify. And again, I'm sure it was Frank's idea. I want to tie back to Dr. Cochran for creating that type of environment where we want to be transparent with the community, not an environment where we want to keep things muddy so people can't see this and trust it. All I got to do is look at this and say, man, this is fantastic. Whereas before, it was always muddy, and it causes people pain. This causes joy. Thank you.
Joy might be a stretch.
I'm joyful at the moment, proceed.
Joyless days.
Okay.
I'll take joy.
Any other public input?
For some reason, the phrase "no good deed goes unpunished" comes to mind. I don't know.
So with that,
You need to read it first.
pardon me?
Do you make a motion, non-public? I think you have to read it first, right?
Yeah. RSA 91A, semicolon 311. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee of the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any changes against him unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. B, the hiring of any person or public employee. C, matters which it shall be granted. The hiring of any person or a public employee, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of the person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such a person requests an open meeting.
So made.
Have a second?
Yes.
Wanted to make sure everything's up for Mr.
Yes.
Mead.
Yes. Right now, we're non-public.
Dave,